Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then, the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Colleen, and let's just get into some weird stuff. So, as per usual, I'm perusing the interwebs and whatnot, trying to find some weird stuff that we can talk about, and I stumbled upon some unusual festivals around the world. Now, these are strange. These are absolutely strange, and these are 100% real. These are festivals that really happen all over the world. Let's start out by taking ourselves down to Finland. So, I'm going to butcher this name so hard, and I am so sorry to anybody in Finland, because I cannot pronounce this, but it's Sonkajärvi? Jarvi? It's Sonkajärvi. Yeah, I can't pronounce it, but it's in Finland, and every year they do a carrier wife championship. So it's a world championship for wife carrying. So the whole thing is that a husband carries the wife across a sort of like an obstacle course. So it's a 831 feet, 831.6 feet, or 253.5 meter track filled with obstacles that husbands carry their wife through to try and win. Now, there are a few ways that these husbands can carry their wives through this course. So you can do it piggyback, or fireman's carry, or you can do what they call an Estonian style carry, which is where the wife hangs upside down with her legs around the husband's shoulders. It's pretty strange and seems like probably the least comfortable for the wife, and probably hardest way to carry them across. But this happens every year, and the prize for winning this is your wife's weight in beer. I don't know. I don't know if that's worth it, but it kind of sounds like a fun thing. I guess this kind of started in 1994, so it's relatively a newer championship, relatively a newer thing, but it does sound like a fun thing to do, and if you're in Finland, maybe you want to try this out. Maybe look up what it is and try it out, because it would be kind of fun. I don't know. That's up to you. I just thought this one was pretty interesting, being, something that's done annually, and it's literally just carrying wives through a obstacle course. And if you're a wife, I think you get the easier part of the job. You just kind of sit there or hang on tight, I guess. Probably better to do piggyback or fireman's carry than the Estonian style carry, but I don't know. I found that a little weird. Let's move on to Spain. So this one is probably one of the hands down strangest ones that I had found. So this happened in, once again, I'm gonna butcher this. So it is Castelló del Murcia, Spain, I believe. I can't pronounce it. But this is something they call the Baby Jumping Festival. Now, this is a religious thing. It happens 60 days after Easter during the Feast of Corpus Christi. And it is technically a baptismal ceremony where all the babies that were born within the last year are absolved of sin. Now, it sounds pretty much just like a baptism when you say it that way, but this is not. So they are absolved of sin by being laid on, like soft, almost little beds, like pillowy bed things, and like throughout the streets. So the babies are laid throughout the streets on these beds, kind of pillow beds. I'll try and find a photo and put it on the Twitter or the Facebook or both so you guys can see it, because it looks uncomfortable. But so they're on these things, and then men dress up in traditional devilish clothing, and they go through terrorizing the crowd. But then, after they terrorize the crowd, they go running down the streets, jumping over the babies who've been laid on these pillows. What? How is this absolving a barely year-old baby of its sin? I don't know, but it's something that happens, and it's been happening since the 1600s. So this is something that's been going on since the 1600s. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. So it's just people who had babies lay their babies out in the street, and men in what they were calling devilish traditional clothing go jumping over babies. So when I was looking this up, I found that actually there has been no reported injury of a child because of this. Which thank God, like for real, that's terrifying. But also that the Catholic higher-ups really frown upon this as a tradition. Now, I frown upon this as a tradition. I just think this is so dangerous. And I know that there has been no reported, issues or like harm done towards these babies, but it still sounds just maddening. Who wakes up 60 days after Easter and is like, hey, I'm gonna go put my baby to be absolved by sins in the middle of the street on some pillows for some men to go jumping over? What? It's kind of insane. There are photos on the internet of this that I found that I'm definitely going to put on the Twitter, which is, if you're looking for it, GSMC_weird news, or also on the Facebook, GSMC weird news. And, I'll show you guys, because this is really, they're probably they're really uncomfortable photos to look at. Like, they're not like something that you're like, oh, this is terrible. Oh, like that. It's just, when you look at it, it's so confusing. If you had no idea what I was talking about, and I hadn't said any of this, and I just showed you the photo, I think you'd just be really like, what? What is this? Why are there children in this street? Like, you would not understand what is going on whatsoever. The photos are real strange, and these devilish traditional costumes are kind of like a matador would wear, but they're yellow with like red detailing. They're not so devilish looking, but I guess they are technically traditional devilish clothing. So I assume this is the clothing that's been used throughout the time, since the 1600s. So the clothing is more symbolic than it is actually devilish and whatnot. I don't know. I'm definitely posting this photo so you guys can go on there and let me know what you think about it, because this is probably one of the weirdest things that I found. Literally people just jumping over babies to absolve them of sin. And once again, like I said, it is frowned upon by Catholic higher-ups, so it's not like they're pushing for this to be a thing. They're just, it was a thing and they don't think it should be a thing. I don't think it should be a thing. You should let me know. Like, tweet at me and let me know what you think of this. Or if you're from there, like, what is this? Or if you know somebody that's talked about this before, have they done it, or have they seen this done, or what is it? Like, 'cause it's really confusing looking from the outside in at something like this. It's just, kind of mind-blowing that this is an actual thing. So I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we'll talk about some more weird, unusual festivals that are happening around the world.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about unusual festivals that happen around the world. Now, we started in Finland, went on over to Spain, and now let's take it on down to Canada. So, this festival, or I guess contest, I guess they're kind of, some of them are contests, some of them are festivals, but I don't know, they all kind of fall under the same category. But where were we? We were in Canada. So, this is Whitehorse, Yukon, Canada, and it's called the International Hair Freezing Contest. Now, this happens every February at the Takahini, Takhini, I am so bad with pronunciation, and this is just the worst episode for me. But, so it's a hot pool, so sort of like a hot springs, I guess, in Whitehorse, Yukon, Canada. And so every February at the hot pools, a bunch of people come, they dunk their head in hot water, then create a frosty hairdo by shaping their hair as it freezes in the cold air. Now, this place, usually around this time, gets to about negative 30 degrees Celsius or 22 degrees Fahrenheit, which helps in the freezing process, hot to cold. And the prize for this is actually a small cash prize. I couldn't find an actual number, so I assume that it varies per year or whatnot. And this one sounds fun. This sounds like a good time. Unlike the last one we talked about, this one sounds like a lot of fun. It's kind of along the same lines as the wife carrying competition that I talked about. This is something that if you're going on vacation or if you're in that area in February, you could go see or you could go participate in. It just sounds like a lot of fun. This is one of those ones that sounds like a good time, but it's also really strange. And if you did go see this, it would be a great conversation starter, let me tell you. Now let's take it on back to Spain once again. And this is specifically in Bunol, Valencia, Spain. I cannot pronounce once again. But this is an annual thing that happens in August that's kind of during this week-long celebration. And it's called La Tomatino, which is basically a 1-hour food fight. So this started in 1945 after people were celebrating, and then they just started a food fight, and then now it's an annual thing. So it's an hour-long tomato fight. So basically it's an hour of people just throwing tomatoes at each other. In 2015 they used up approximately 145,000 kilograms of tomatoes, which is roughly around 319,670 pounds of tomatoes, if I am correct. But that's a lot of tomatoes. That is a lot of tomatoes to chuck at each other. So this actually just became a ticketed event in 2013. I guess just is relative, but it's recently newer as a ticketed event. And the largest amount of people that they've had is about 50,000, which is still so many people to be throwing tomatoes for an hour at each other. So this happens once a year, like I said, in August, where basically everybody gets together and for an hour straight throws tomatoes at each other. And then around the time that the hour's over, they go and they have trucks come in and hose down the streets, and then the people bathe in it. It's... I don't know. It's kind of a strange thing, but this, again, sounds like another one that would be fun to kind of go to. Just like the last one we talked about, this is one of those things that you could plan to do, or if you're in the area around the time or whatnot, you could go and at least watch or be a part of, because this sounds like so much fun. I mean, prepare to get real messy and need to take a shower after, but this sounds like something that would be a heck of a lot of fun. Everybody in their life at some point has secretly wanted to food fight thanks to movies. But everybody in life has got to secretly want to do this. I mean, maybe it's just me that just wants to have a food fight, but it sounds like so much fun, and it sounds kind of fun because it's just tomatoes and not a bunch of different food. And so, I don't know, it sounds like a good time. And if you're in Valencia, Spain around August, you should go check it out. Like, I'm not even joking. If you're from there, tweet me and let me know if you do this, because it sounds like a great time. This is actually showing me so much fun things. Like looking up all these things, they're kind of showing me all these fun activities that if I were to go travel somewhere to one of these places, I could actually plan around, and it would be so much fun. I'm telling you. So much fun. I don't know if it's just me, but this is one of those things that just sounds like a blast. Just like the other one where you're basically watching people, or if you participate yourself, you're making fun, crazy hairdos that basically freeze into that shape. Like, that sounds like a blast. These ones, apart from one of the ones in the beginning of this podcast, sound like some of the funnest things that you could actually... most fun thing? I don't know. But it sounds so fun to go and do if you're in the area around the time, or if you're planning a vacation in any of those areas and you're just like, oh, well, we could go check that out. Like, it just sounds like a good time all around. Now, before we take a quick break, I want to squeeze in another one here. Now, this is something that I've actually known about for a while because of a specific movie, but I thought it would be a quick little fun one that I could share with you guys, and this is the Air Guitar World Championship in Oulu, Finland. So this started in 1996, and it started as a joke, and then just became this huge thing. It started at a music festival as kind of this little joke thing, and then turned into its own festival as a whole, where people have to play air guitar, no other air instruments, just air guitar, to a song for 1 minute and 2 rounds, hoping to score the highest score. Now, I knew about this one because there's a movie out there which I totally recommend. It's a documentary called Air Guitar Nation, and I don't remember who in my family, but I was a lot younger, found this, and we started watching it, and I've watched this movie multiple times, and it is so good. It is probably one of the coolest, documentaries and the weirdest things that you'll see, but if you get a chance, go check out Air Guitar Nation, and it'll really elaborate on this whole air guitar culture, and this Air Guitar World Champion is the biggest championship, but there are these festivals and championships around the world that lead up to this, like you're kind of going through your regional to national type of thing. I don't know. It's really fascinating to me, and it's a heck of a lot of fun to watch because it's just people playing air guitar, but they're just so into it, and it looks like a blast. It looks like a blast. I don't know if I would win, but I would try. Let me tell you, and people do this for a living. Like, it's really strange and a lot of fun, and let me just tell you, check out Air Guitar Nation, the documentary, and trust me, you will thank me, because it is a really weird and fun watch. One of the weirdest things I've ever seen. But with that, I'm going to take a quick break, and when I come back, we'll talk some more weird festivals, unusual festivals, and celebrations and championships.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about unusual competitions and also just festivals around the world that are real, that happen a lot of times annually around the world. Now, let's take it on down to Hong Kong. Now, I'm going to butcher this name just like I've been butchering names this entire podcast, so bear with me. But so this happened in Cheung Chau, Hong Kong. It's so sorry if I can't pronounce it. I am so sorry. But Cheng or something Chow. I'm so bad with pronunciations. They have a bun festival every year. Now this bun festival is where participants race up a tower of buns to grab the highest bun in hopes for good fortune. Now this happens on the 8th day of the 4th month of the Chinese calendar, which also coincides with Buddha's birthday. And this has been happening since the 18th century. So this has been happening for a very long time. Now, this event has one particular words, losing it already, and we are not even halfway through. But, so they have a specific bun supplier for this event, which I am also going to butcher the name of, which is Kwok Kom Ki, I believe, and they make more than 60,000 buns for this festival specifically. Now, I'm gonna have to find a good photo of this, because I saw photos of this and it's intense. It is absolutely crazy, honestly. But there are these centerpieces of the event that are 3 60-foot bamboo towers that are covered in buns, which these ones are scaled by 3 trained men, whereas the other ones around, which look about the same but are not as large, are also just filled with buns. It's a lot of buns, let me tell you, a lot of buns, but it looks cool. This is definitely, it seems like an important thing that's been going on since the 18th century, and it seems like it would be fun to go watch. Once again, another one that would be fun to go watch, or even participate in. I'm so sorry that I butchered these names, but this is cool. I'm gonna find a photo of these towers of buns, and I'm gonna put it on the Twitter at GSMC_Weird News. And also on the Facebook, which is GSMC Weird News, so that you guys can see what I was looking at, because it's kind of ridiculous and so crazy. So crazy, let me tell you. Now, let's move from all the way from Hong Kong to the US of A to Florida. Now, Low Key Reef, I'm not sure if it's Low Key or Lowy Key, because it's spelled Looe, Key Reef, which is our only reef around the United States. hosts an underwater music festival. Now, this underwater music festival has been going on for about 31 years. And it's sponsored by a local radio station to promote environmental sustainability, and responsible diving. So this whole thing is about environmental sustainability and responsible diving. That's really what it's for. It's promoted by this local radio station, and they play sea-themed music on speakers that are suspended above the reef, but attached to the bottom of boats. And that's cool. So it's all sea-themed music that's attached to these boats. So it's not like speakers sitting in the water. They're speakers that are attached to these boats suspended above the reef. And people are encouraged to wear costumes and play underwater instruments for prizes. Now, I only saw one photo of this event. I'll have to find some more to put up on the Twitter and Facebook. But when I saw this, they were playing some weird-looking instruments, and I guess, I don't know if they're made specifically for this or if there are actual underwater instruments. I'm not too familiar with the underwater music scene. But people are encouraged to dress up in all sorts of different costumes and play these instruments for, I guess, prizes. This sounds like so much fun. Just like a lot of these where I'm just saying that these sound like so much fun, this sounds like so much fun. This sounds like a good time to be had. Get to dive around this beautiful, beautiful reef while listening to underwater themed music and maybe even participating in some games to win some prizes. I mean, this is kind of a great way to really promote responsible diving and environmental sustainability. I think this is great what they're doing down there in Florida, and if I'm ever in the area around the time, which I couldn't really find when this was, but I assume it's in the warmer weather, around summer probably, when they do this. But I would love to see this. If any of you guys are from Florida or have seen this before or have gone and done this before, let me know. If you have photos from an event like this, tweet them at me at GSMC_weird news. For real, I'd love, love, love to see if you've gone to this, or if you have, what you think about it, or if you have issues with it, let me know. I just want to know. This and the Bun Festival. If you've done either of these or you've heard things about these, just let me know. I'm very curious. Honestly, I'm just so curious about all these. When I started doing a dive into these different festivals and, I guess challenges and all sorts of traditions and stuff, I found so many cool things that are just so interesting and so different and so fun, but also all the way weird. All the way weird. But it just seems so fun. This one sounds like a good time, just like the Bun Festival, but in the Bun Festival you might get some, good luck. Some good luck from a higher bun power. I mean, what's better than food and good fortune? I don't know. Food and good fortune. I'm about it. Now I'm just rambling about how much fun this would be. That's what I feel like I'm doing at the end of each of these before I go into a break, is just that I'm rambling about how much fun that it would be to go to something like this. I'm going to have to go to one of these and post about it or something and let you guys know or something like that. And if you've gone to any sort of weird festival, even if it's a festival or some sort of competition or something like that, that I don't know about or I didn't even talk about in this, tweet them at me, Facebook me, let me know, because I am so unbelievably curious. I am so curious of all the weird things in the world. All the weird things in the world. Hence why I do this podcast. Love the weird, totally embracing the weird, unless it's like baby jumping, because I don't know if I'm on board with jumping over babies in devil costume. Or in devilish traditional costume, excuse me. I don't know if I'm about that one, but still, I love the weird and I want to know. Let me know. Now, before I keep rambling, let's take a quick break, and when I come back, we're going to talk some more, even more, weird festivals and strange things that are going on around the world.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and One Championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking some weird festivals, some unusual festivals around the world. Now, let's head on over to England. So, this festival happens in Devon, England in May, and it is the Blackwoodton International Festival of Worm Charming. Once again, not good at pronunciation. Ooh, I can't even pronounce that. Look at me. But this is a worm charming festival. Now, everybody is in teams, and teams are given a square meter of land in the middle of a field and are tasked with charming as many worms as possible in 15 minutes. Now, there are some rules when it comes to this. So the only rule is no digging. So you can't dig the worms out. That's out of the question. 100% out of the question. No digging the worms. But you can do basically anything else to charm these worms out of the ground to win yourself some stuff. So there are some ways that people are charming these worms out, which include charming with songs, either playing beats upon the ground or melodies with a lute. Okay, so the pictures of this, which I just need to post a bunch of pictures from these festivals on the Twitter at GSMC_Weird News and on the Facebook, GSMC Weird News. But I need to post the photo of this because these people look like they're having the time of their life. The time of their life. And they're all dressed up and it looks great. So some people are charming with songs while others are reverting to more of a natural-ish aspect. So some people are sprinkling water to mimic a light rain and stuff like that. Now, people are doing this, having a good time, but they must be weary of the punishment for cheating. Now, the punishment for cheating is a little ridiculous, let me tell you. The punishment for cheating in this worm charming festival, in the worm charming festivities, is you are put in stocks and publicly humiliated. I mean, that's a bit much. But that's what happens. That is the punishment if you're gonna go digging or something along those lines, or if you're doing something that's a little cheaty over here in Devon, England, while you're trying to charm out your worms. Now, I've heard of people charming worms before, and those are just people who are worm farmers, I think that they're called. I'm not 100% sure, but I watched something on people who farmed worms for a living, and they use all sorts of different methods, but this is more of just a festival, some festivities, some fun challenges and whatnot. But like I said, don't go cheating, because if you go cheating, you are going to be publicly humiliated in the stocks. Well, I don't know. I think that's kind of a ridiculous punishment, but also this seems like a fun group activity to do. So let's move from England all the way over to Alaska. So this is at Talkeetna, Alaska. Once again, I can't pronounce anything right, especially in this episode. But in this place in Alaska, this happens in July, or happened in July until 2009, and I'll get into why. But this is the Moose Dropping Festival. Yes, you heard me correctly, Moose Dropping Festival. So this is a festival where they have painted white moose droppings. So this is moose species that they paint white, and then they drop from a helicopter or balloon. It didn't say when they did what, or if they changed it throughout the years, if it was a balloon and then a helicopter, I don't know. But they drop this painted white moose feces from a helicopter or balloon at targets. And then the locals bet on where they might fall. So this is literally a moose dropping festival. So they take moose droppings and they drop them from helicopters or balloons and bet on where they're going to land on these targets. Now, like I said a little bit earlier, this was until 2009. Because in 2009, there became this influx in tourists and a near tragedy. I couldn't find anything about this near tragedy. But this influx of tourists and this near tragedy forced them to cancel altogether this festival. Now, I am still talking about this festival because technically it's still going today, because the town decided to bring it back in 2013. They brought it back in 2013 probably because it is popular and it helps their tourist numbers and whatnot. But they brought it back in 2013, but instead of in July, it's festivities that are spread throughout the year. So I believe, I couldn't find a lot about it, but I believe that they do it more than just in July. It's more of a few times a year festivity or something along those lines. But that's a moose dropping festival. Literally dropping moose droppings. I have so many questions. Where are you getting your moose droppings? Who's in charge of painting them white? Who's in charge of dropping them? And are we safe when you drop them from this helicopter and or balloon? I mean, that could probably fall under this near tragedy, which I couldn't find anything about. If I find something about it, I will put it on the Twitter or Facebook. But, I mean, that could have resulted in this near tragedy. I don't know. Because they are a very small place of it's like 800 and something people, so it's not a lot of people. I don't know if there are more at this time, but around 2009, that was the number. So it is a not very large place, and I can understand an influx in tourists because of something like this could really just throw the whole town for a loop. But it's back, and if you are in Alaska around any of the times that they're doing this moose dropping festival, I guess go check it out. Like, this sounds ridiculous. This is probably one of the weirdest ones that I found. This is just strange on so many levels. Who's in charge of finding the moose droppings? And it's like, hey, that's a moose dropping. That's a good one to throw from the balloon. What? Oh, there's another one. That's a good one to throw from a helicopter. I don't know. It's just kind of more on the ridiculous side. But I thought that I would share this with you because it's so ridiculous. It's so weird. It's so not something you would think is actually going on in the world at any time, let alone now. I mean, I don't know what you're doing, Alaska, but you're weird, and I accept that wholeheartedly. Now, I'm going to take another break, and when we come back, let's talk some more interesting, weird, and unusual festivals.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking about weird festivals, unusual festivals that are happening all around the world, also like challenges and all those kinds of things, just weird festivals, basically. Now, I want to take it on over to the US of A once again, to Rayne, Louisiana. It is R-A-Y-N-E, so I think it's pronounced Rayne. If you just started listening right now in the middle of this, you haven't heard me just butcher every name under the sun, and I am just butchering it. And why are you starting a podcast in the middle? Tell me why, because you shouldn't be. Anyway, let's move along. So we are in Rayne, Louisiana for the Rayne Frog Festival. If you love frogs, this is the festival for you, let me tell you. So this happens around mid-November, and the festival organization committee itself calls it are you ready for this? This is my favorite. A totally awesome time. Get it? Totally? Okay. I thought that was great. You're probably like, please stop. This is terrible, but I love it. So it's a totally awesome time, according to the festival committee. And there are so many things you can do. Are you ready for this? You've got frog races. You've got frog jumping. And the selection of the Frog Derby Queen, along with lots of Cajun-style frog legs to eat, of course. Lots of frog stuff. You've got local and regional and even national music groups that come and play at this. You've got frog-themed runs, fairs, and frog-themed activities. They call themselves the frog capital of the world. I don't know if that's true. I think they're self-proclaimed frog capital of the world. But if you love frogs, this is for you. Because you've got so many things. You could watch frogs race, or jump, or the selection of the frog queen. I think that's hilarious, but also kind of awesome. And lots of food. I bet the food is delicious. Now, if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, this is probably not the place for you. But if you love a good frog leg, or you just love frogs, this is probably the best place for you. Now, I don't know. It kind of seems like they're reaching a little bit with their totally awesome time and self-proclaimed frog capital of the world thing. But I think that if you're in Louisiana in mid-November, in Rayne, Louisiana specifically in mid-November, this could be a really fun time for you, or a really fun thing to go do with your family, your kids, whatever it is, your friends. Like, this sounds like a fun thing. And if you're from Rayne, Louisiana, or Louisiana, and you've been to this, tweet me at GSMC_weird news, and let me know if you love to go to this, or if it's kind of just something that happens and everybody's like, why is this happening again? And it also seemed, when I was looking this up, that there actually weren't that many frogs at this thing, and I couldn't find much more about that, and I'm really curious how many frogs, or if they do have a lot of frogs at this thing, or if it's just really, really frog themed. I don't know. It seems like it could be a fun little, almost like a fair, but frog themed, from at least what I could see about it. Now, we were just in Rain, Louisiana. Let's take a plane all the way to South Korea. So this is in, I am gonna butcher this, I'm so sorry, Borenyong, South Korea? And this is the Mud Festival. Now, I saw this originally, and I had been scrolling past it saying, this isn't that weird, and then I took the time, stopped, and read about it, and the origin is really weird, honestly. But this happens in July. I feel like a lot of these that I've talked about so far have happened in July, so you might want to pick one to go to in July. But this happens in July in South Korea, and it's a 2-week event that has millions of visitors every year. Millions of visitors. So this is so popular. And this happens along the coastline where people... okay, let's start from the beginning. They start with truckloads of mud that they lay out on a Daecheon beach. Once again, butchering it, it's Daecheon beach. And there's mud wrestling, mud skiing, mud sliding, and even body painting with colored mud. Or a mud massage. You could get a mud massage. Now, I talked about that this was like, the origin was really weird to me, and that's because it started in the 1990s. And it's all started to promote the region's mud-based cosmetic lines, cosmetic products. So the region's mud-based cosmetic products. There we go. I can say words. But, so it all started because they're trying to promote these cosmetics, but now people are coming from all over the world to do all these events and stuff, but they're also coming to enjoy the cosmetic benefits of the mud's, mineral components. Which, that actually sounds kind of super relaxing. This sounds like it's a really, really crowded place to be, because millions of tourists come specifically for this, along with all the people that do it every year that live there and all that kind of stuff. But the mud sounds great. Honestly, I would love to do this, but it's the amount of people kind of are pushing me away from the idea of doing this. But this sounds great because not only are you having a good time, but you're reaping the benefits of the minerals within this mud, and it's making your skin all silky smooth or whatever, curing your, I don't know, ailments. I don't know what mud does, but it really looks like a fun time when you look up photos. Once again, I'll post the photos on the Twitter at GSMC_weird news. I'm going to keep plugging that until you feel like you're gonna vomit because of it. But I will post photos because this looks like a really good time, and it does seem like a lot of tourists come from all over the world with their friends and their family to go do this, and it looks like there's just so much to do. I think it's kind of crazy that this is a 2-week thing. Usually a lot of these festivals that I'm seeing are a few days or 1 day or something like that, not 2 weeks. But I guess I could understand it being a 2-week thing if there are millions of visitors coming to this thing. Not just hundreds or hundreds of thousands, like this is millions of people are coming to just roll in mud on the beach. So, I don't know. It sounds like a good time, honestly, and your skin probably is going to feel so good. I mean, unnecessarily great after this, but it does seem really crowded, and maybe there are days within the 2 weeks that are better to go or not. I couldn't really find much about it, but have you heard about this? Because it does seem to be a little bit more on the popular side, but did you know about the origin? Because I thought it was really weird that it was all based off of a marketing ploy for mud-based cosmetics, which is actually kind of really cool. I think it's really interesting, at least. Have you ever been to this? Let me know if you've ever been to this, and if you took pictures, send them my way via Twitter or Facebook at GSMC Weird News on Facebook, GSMC _Weird News on Twitter. Just send me photos if you've been to any of these things, especially this one, because this one looks like something, and it seems like one of the most popular of the things that you can do, along the lines of the festivals that I'm talking about today. So, I don't know. Let me know. I would love to go to this. I think my skin would feel so good after being at this. Now, before I keep talking and rambling on about skin and mud, let's take a quick break, and when I come back, we'll talk just a few more of some weird and unusual festivals.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hello and welcome back to the GSMC Weird News podcast. Now, before the break, we were talking some weird festivals, some unusual festivals that happen around the world, and I am just going to talk about some more. There are so many weird festivals that are around the world that I could talk so much more even than just this hour about it. Now, we were in South Korea when we took the break. Now let's stay in South Korea, actually, but move on to Seoul. Now, in Seoul, South Korea, specifically in the Sinchon district, I cannot pronounce anything today. It is the Sinchon district. In Seoul, South Korea, in the summertime, they have a water gun festival. Now, this sounds like probably my number one most fun out of all of the ones that I've talked about so far. This started as just some like midsummer fun for local college students in the area, but then it turned into the most popular summer festival in Seoul, which is mind-blowing to think that something that was just fun around locals turned into this huge festival that people travel around the world to come and do. So during this festival, they battle it out. People battle it out, sometimes even dressed in like fancy dress. I guess that's kind of a popular thing to do, is fancy dress and then go to this battle. But you battle it out with water guns of all shapes and sizes in the streets, with music playing, between market stalls. It's like a huge thing. But if you are in Seoul and you don't know this is happening, and you stumble upon this giant water battle, basically, this water gun festival, you can actually buy a water gun from stalls and join in. Now, another thing that's popular, or that they do during this water gun festival, is what they call a water gun wedding. So a wedding, but with water guns? I don't know. It seems kind of ridiculous, and it reminds me a lot of when I was younger. When I was in like elementary school, I lived on a street with a bunch of other kids, and sometimes they would do block parties and block off the street and stuff, but there would be times in the summer where a bunch of us kids would just throw these huge water gun fights with all the kids in the neighborhood. No one was safe. They didn't shut down the streets for that, let me tell you, but it was always so fun. And it started when the sun rose and went till the sun set. That's what this reminds me of, and I'd love to go do it just because it kind of feels a little nostalgic to me in a way. I don't know. I just think it sounds like so much fun. Now, moving on from South Korea, let's head on over to Italy. I don't think we've been to Italy yet. So, I am going to butcher this name. Ivrea, Italy? Yeah. It's called the Battle of the Oranges. So I'm noticing a trend in food throwing with these. Food throwing and just getting messy altogether seems to be a trend within these weird festivals. Now, what stuck out to me about this specific festival is that there's actually no known origin, but there is a theory that it was a city-wide food fight that started as a rebellion against an Ivoran tyrant from the area, but there's no actual evidence to back that up. It's just a theory. So there is no known origin about this. Orange. I don't know. That was dumb. Okay, keep moving. But, so this is basically a giant orange fight where teams on foot and on horse cart, on a cart pulled by horses, basically just chuck oranges at one another in the city streets. Now, if you're a bystander or a tourist, you're recommended to wear this special red hat that they have so that you're not mistaken as a fighter. But other than that, you can grab oranges and just join in if you really want to. This one sounds painful. So I guess that there's also nets that you can stand behind that are supposed to help. I really still think that you'd get it would be chaos. It looks like absolute chaos. And oranges are not a soft fruit. Oranges hurt. You ever had an orange chucked at you? I have. I have a sister, so, but I've had an orange chucked at me, and they are not fun. That is not a soft fruit, and it sounds like it would hurt, but it also sounds just like another good time. Honestly, all these food fight ones sounds like so much fun, and anything where you're just fighting in the streets with a bunch of random people, but all with stuff that's not dangerous. I mean, oranges might be a little dangerous, a little more dangerous than water guns, but I do think that all these ones that are food related sound like a ton of fun. And I guess if you want something like the Battle of the Oranges, but you don't want to be pelted by oranges, you could go from Italy to Spain and just do the tomato one, because tomatoes are way softer than an orange is. Still, it's pelting food at each other, so be mindful of that when you're doing something like this. I just thought this one sounded kind of fun. I mean, they all sound kind of fun except for the baby jumping. I'm not sure how I feel about that. But, I don't know. This one was interesting to me that people are just pelting each other with oranges, but there's no origin. People just do it. And this, I don't think I mentioned when this happens. So this happens from March 2nd to March 5th. So this is a 3-day thing. It's not just a 1-day or 2-day thing. This is a 3-day event of orange pelting, I guess. Orange hurling, we could call it. Now, I've been reading about these. There are so many more we could talk about if you guys wanted to. But I think my time is just about up. And I want to say to all of you listening out there, thank you so much for listening. Also, if you are not following us on social media, you should be. I am very active there. I love to talk to you guys on the social media. So on Twitter, we are at GSMC_Weird News. And on Facebook, we are GSMC Weird News. Hit us up. Tweet me your weird festival photos, or if you know of some weird festivals that I didn't talk about today. Also, just tweet me. Just slide on in and say hello. Say hello to me over there. Also, if you guys love podcasts, and not just weird news, but you're into all different sorts of things, you can check out the GSMC podcast network, because there are podcasts for everyone on there. You've got sports, you've got relationship news, you've got beauty tips, and I'm actually one of the hosts on the beauty tips. If you like to listen to me and you like beauty, go check it out. Our other host is amazing as well. Just check out that, check out any of the other ones. You might find something that tickles your fancy, I don't know. But that's up to you. And once again, guys, I really want to say thank you for listening. This is not possible without everybody out there who is taking the time to listen to me ramble for an entire hour. Even if it is just rambling for an entire hour. Seriously, guys, thank you so much. This is the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. My name is Colleen, and you are amazing, and I will see you in the next one.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.